Welcome to r/pro revenge, where Karen complains about her neighbors and gets taught a lesson. Neighbor Karen gets evicted. I shared a duplex with my then girlfriend and her son, who was 7. To fully understand all of this, I have to lay out the geography. This was a single house duplex with both doors in the middle with a shared small front porch. The house was built on the side of a hill. Our half was on the uphill side, so underneath the other unit are both garages side by side. There's a back porch, but it has a divider, so we share a moderate amount of privacy. We got a new neighbor one day, but didn't meet her until a couple of weeks after she'd moved in. We'll call her Karen. She's mid to late 50s, skinny, and has cats. Lots of cats. We can see them in our windows. Our meeting went as such. One day we're out washing our cars in the front yard, me, the girlfriend, and her kid. The hose wouldn't reach the driveway. I also have a pair of motorcycles that I'm washing too. They will be important later. We're having a fun afternoon in the sun, playing with the hose. You know the scene, all kinds of cute and happy. This is when our new neighbor comes home. Karen drives along the driveway, parks in the garage, and walks up to the sidewalk where we are. We politely introduce ourselves and even joke that if she pulls her car up, we'd wash it too. She all but ignores us and walks straight to her door. We just shrug it off. But then she returns and goes straight vapor lock, setting the mood for the rest of the year. She starts nagging in an angry, almost screaming tone that she doesn't want us on her half of the yard. We can't be on her half, which included the sidewalk since it went through her half of the front yard. We would have to go around the back to get to our door. That's not happening. And she also wants us to stop using the garage door opener because she doesn't like the noise it makes when we do. She's upsetting my girlfriend and scaring her kid. I have to calm them both down and get them inside while Karen is still yelling with a jabbing finger. Now, I'm an easygoing guy. I can just let it roll off, but my girlfriend and her kid didn't deserve that. I got them both to calm down, and Karen needed to be taught a lesson. I go to put the cars and bikes away. It's during this that I can hear Karen through the garage ceiling on the phone with what I can only assume is our landlord. She's complaining about how rude and insufferable we are. We scare her cats. Really? And we keep running the garage door and it bothers her. She doesn't like it. We have to go. The light bulb goes off. Both of my bikes are carbureted, and for the life of me, I can't remember the last time I had them adjusted. Since car washing was cut short, maybe I can do that instead. I pull mine and the girlfriend's car out of the garage. I'm going to need the space. Then I park the bike side by side, exhaust pipes facing into the garage. I break out the tools and start with a little one. She's a 2001 V-Star 1100 Classic. I named her Molly. Vance and Hines pipes, but they're still pretty loud. I crank Molly up and wail on that throttle while I fine-tune the throttle body, just ripping it as loud as she can, filling that garage with all of the noise. Keep that up for a few minutes, then let her rest a minute. When I finally put Molly to bed, I can hear Karen stomping on the floor and yelling at me. I yell back, "Okay, Karen, just one more to go, only be a few minutes." Then I turn my attention to Black Betty. She's the '08 Vulcan Mean Streak Limited Edition. She's an 1800. She has pipes too, but the baffles may or may not have been drilled out. Before I can crank it up, I hear her calling what I assume is the landlord and yelling that she doesn't care about a lease. She wants us kicked out. She just won't stand for it. I didn't catch the rest of it as Betty was clearing her throat. I gave up the subterfuge of actually working on it and just held the throttle open for a moment. Then rest, then throttle. Then rest. Kept that up until my own ears started ringing. Then I put the vehicles away. She was still stomping on the floor and talking on the phone. I assumed this was someone other than the landlord because she's retelling the same story again. Also, did I mention that we're friends with the landlord? Yeah, so once I'm back inside, the girlfriend is on the phone with him. We tell our side, he laughs at my prank with the bike, then asks me not to do that anymore. We finish off the evening with some TV while Karen is still screaming. Her voice is wavering as though she might be angry crying. In the coming months, it only got worse. A few days later, I'm out on my way to work. I leave at about 6 a.m. I go around to the garage, and Karen has left her car outside her garage and positioned it so that I can't get my car out. I knock on her door, and of course she doesn't answer. Bang on it a few more times, nothing. I even yell at the door. "Hey, Karen! You're blocking my car. I need to get to work." This is clearly her petty revenge for the bikes, I'm sure. Fortunately, it's a nice day, so I can just take one of my bikes to work. The bike can fit around her car. But thanks to her, I wasn't going to have time to enjoy my breakfast once I got there. That evening, I came home and her car was still there. So instead of putting it back in the garage, I leave the bike parked behind her car, just at the edge of the street. Now, I know what you're thinking, but OP, what if she backs into it? And I was kind of hoping that's where it would go. See, I've got great insurance and an even better lawyer. But no, this is how petty she is. She called the cops. The nice officer informs me that I'm blocking her car from exiting. Yeah, that was kind of the point. I inform him that she started it. I felt like a kid saying that. And honestly, we would have called the cops on her for her crap this morning, but it seemed like a waste of their time. Also, I had to get to work this morning. Cops' response? Yes, but that's why we're here. Once I explained the whole thing, Mr. Officer knocks on her door, addresses himself, and gets her to come outside. We explain the whole mess. The cop asks, "Is this true?" She admits it, but can't produce a reason for it. The cop goes off on both of us for being childish and tells us to stop blocking the driveway. Says he doesn't want to have to come back out to our residence again. Ha! Yeah, okay. That weekend, we go to a different neighbor's for a few drinks. Their porch was about 30 feet or so from the original scene of the crime. We're not being loud, no music, just a handful of us grilling and drinking beers. Oh, and among the guests this evening is our landlord himself. Did I mention we were good with him? Anyways, sure enough, the nice policeman comes by. He comes to the deck, flashlight in his hand, says he got a noise complaint. Clearly it was her. But the funny part was that the cop told us that the noise complaint was placed by, wait for it, the landlord himself. Landlord steps forward and says, "That's funny, I don't remember calling to complain about myself." Once again, we explain everything to the officer. He laughs, asks us to keep it down, and then leaves. After that, Mr. Landlord goes over to her unit. Of course, she doesn't answer the door, but he speaks loud enough for her to hear, letting her know what she did wasn't cool. After that, we just tried to avoid each other. There would be minor things like UPS packages dropped off for her. We find it on our side and move it over. Later on, we'll hear through the door, "Keep your hands off my stuff," or other headaches that would make us wish that her cats would turn on her. A few weeks later, I'd gotten a promotion at work, so we threw a party. Sure enough, the cops were called again. The landlord was with us again, and he yelled over at her door, "Hey Karen, this is getting old." This next instance I can't quite take the credit for, but Karen had built this obnoxious awning to cover her side of the porch out back. She never uses the porch, so why bother? However, I clearly remember a stipulation in our lease that says we are not allowed to modify the exterior of the units at all. Maybe hers is different. Maybe I should call the landlord and find out. What's that? No? She doesn't get to make modifications either? Well, she did. So he makes her remove it. Again, because we're in good with him, he shares the tale with us, how she complained and begged and then relented. It was ear candy. Speaking of candy, come Halloween, I decorated the yard. I had heard from multiple neighbors of ours that their kids were frightened of my front yard come Halloween. I had to move some of my decorations, and that included the 15-foot ghost on the roof of the unit. I had to move it all the way over onto my side. So come Halloween night, we took her son out trick-or-treating, and literally every kid we saw, we told them to go by her place. She had the good candy and lots of it. But she's old and hard of hearing, so you'll have to bang on the door really hard. No, she won't mind. She's a sweet lady. Now I realize that this was also mean to the kids, but it was worth it to get my revenge. The grand finale. It's been about 10 months by now. The cops hadn't come back out and we hadn't fought in a while. One evening, we hear a splatter coming from the kitchen. Go in and find that a pipe has burst under the sink and it's spraying. I quickly go out to the main and I close it. But because this is a duplex, I've cut off water to her side as well. She's not home yet, so we call our buddy, the landlord. He comes and addresses the issue, small part to fix it. Needs to run to Home Depot, be right back. Meanwhile, I type up a note for Karen's door. I let her know we had a leak, had to shut off the water, but it should be fixed within an hour or two. Even thanked her for her understanding. While he's gone, we clean up the water. It was a lot. Then, before he returns, we hear the splatter again. At first, I'm a little confused. I know I turned it off, but then it clicks. I go outside, and there's Karen holding a pipe wrench. "Hey, didn't you see my note?" "Yes, but my cats need water." "Yes, but now you're flooding our unit." I need water. My girlfriend comes out and goes off shouting, calling her names. Next door neighbors hear and they come out. It's a show now. I go get my wrench to close the main valve again, but she won't move out of the way. She's literally blocking me. Sure enough, landlord arrives at the crap show. Hey, we left her a note. She ignored it and started the water again. Wait, she what? Then he turns to start going off on her. I take advantage of her distraction to go turn the water off again, but at this point, the damage is done. It's been running long enough that the carpets are soaked and the water is pouring out the front door. Meanwhile, landlord is still yelling at her. All right, Karen, that's it. You're out of here. This is your 30 days. BS. I've already signed next year's lease. But I haven't yet, so it's worthless. And I'm taking your deposit to pay for their damages. She melts. But I don't have anywhere else to go. She continues to argue and cry about her deposit. She'll need that for her next apartment. She can't afford to move. She threatens small claims court to get it back. The argument rages on while I take girlfriend and son to go get packed. We can't stay here tonight. We spent the next couple of nights at a hotel while the carpets were redone. He bought the beer and ribs for the next barbecue. A few more weeks go by without so much as a peep from her. One day we come home and she's just gone. Porch, garage, all apartment cleaned out. I'm almost disappointed she didn't say goodbye. Am I the jerk for saying not everything is about your kid? I was having a small birthday party for my son. We decided on his favorite pizza place. Both my sister-in-law and daughter are vegetarian, and I asked them both what kind of pizza they wanted, and they both chose garden pizza with all veggies. We also had pepperoni and a meat lovers, garlic cheesy bread, wings, and an Italian salad. Lots of food for dinner, plus the cake and ice cream for later. My brother arrives with his new girlfriend and her son. I've never met this boy. I was an extremely busy mom with my 3 kids and 4 other cousins. The girlfriend asks where the cheese pizza is, and I told her we don't have cheese. She started in on my brother about, how could you not tell your family my kid only likes cheese pizza? I said, we have cheesy garlic bread, but the boy didn't like that either. Then I suggested he could have an extra large piece of cake. It was white with sprinkles. Her kid only liked chocolate cake. Around this time, my son and his other cousins started arguing about Fortnite and the new update, and my son decided he wanted the Airbender Battle Pass, so I'm sidetracked with that and logging the cousin into my daughter's Switch. The girlfriend asked me to order a cheese pizza for her son so he could have something to eat. I snapped back with, not everything is about your kid. I was then distracted by my daughter yelling at her cousin because she didn't want him playing her Switch with gross chicken grease hands. I went to defuse that. Afterwards, when it came to cake and ice cream, I noticed my brother, his girlfriend, and her son left. I got a long text message from my brother about how could I bully them like that and what an awful example I'm setting for my kids. I don't feel like I was out of line, and she was a rude guest, and now my brother and I aren't talking. Not the jerk. If she really cared so much for her kid, she would have bought him a cheese pizza. You don't go to a birthday party and demand things, especially when you were not invited to said party. I hope your brother will make better relationship decisions in the future for your sake. The audacity of parents to demand someone else to do something for their kid, it's not your job and it's not your issue. Am I the jerk for walking out of my birthday dinner after my sister and her boyfriend announced they were getting married? This was a couple of weeks ago, but I still think about it. I, 16 female, had my sweet 16th a couple of weeks ago. Nothing too crazy, but my parents and my extended family all came over, and we went out for a nice restaurant that my parents had booked. A lot of my family, cousins and nieces and nephews, were there, so it was a lot of people. After we ate dinner and it was time to blow out my candles, my mom insisted I open some of my presents so I don't have to carry them home. My aunts, uncles, and grandparents gave me my presents. After opening them and saying thank you, my older sister and her boyfriend gave me their present. Inside their box they gave me was a "Will you be my maid of honor?" card on top of the present. I obviously confused looked at them with a weird expression on my face. My mom came over to look in the box as well, and she loudly said, "You're getting engaged!" My sister squealed with excitement and told us all about her proposal and how they're already wedding planning. She said it was the perfect time to announce their engagement since all of our family was here. When my sister asked if I was going to say yes, I just nodded and excused myself to the bathroom. No, I didn't actually go to the bathroom. I ended up walking out and went to a nearby park. A couple hours passed by, and my dad pulled up on the curb and told me to get in with him. I expected him to get mad at me, but instead he ended up taking me out for ice cream, and we sat at the lake and just talked. When I got home, I saw my cake on the counter, and my mom got up and started yelling at me about how I wasted money, wasted my family's time. My sister and her boyfriend came out and told me how mean I am for doing that to them. My sister ended up saying that my birthday wasn't as important as her wedding, and my mother agreed. My dad told my sister and her boyfriend to get out and ended up talking to my mom about how they could have checked with me beforehand instead of announcing it the way they did. So, am I the jerk? Info out of being nosy. Did they get you an actual birthday gift, or was your presence in their wedding the gift they gave you? You're not the jerk for being hurt, and your mom saying the wedding was more important than your birthday was mean. OP. Basically, just a crappy box with the maid of honor card and a little accessory that she wanted us to wear on her wedding day. Kinda like stuff you'd give to your bridesmaids, if that makes sense. Update. My dad and I set my mom and sister down just so I could explain to her that I won't be her maid of honor as it's a big responsibility and that it should be in the hands of an adult instead of me. Although she tried to convince me further, I still said no. She starts growling at me, saying that I was ruining her wedding and that her and her fiancé went out of their way to buy me a gift, which was her proposal box to me. Unfortunately, my mom and sister started telling me how cruel it was to ruin a wedding and that it's not about me and it's about the bride. My dad brought my birthday up again and told them how my sister had ruined my birthday and that if she didn't try to make it all about herself, we wouldn't be arguing. I don't want to go into too much detail of what went down, but basically, my sister started crying and my mom called me a brat and a disgrace for how I've officially ruined my sister's wedding. I'm now staying at my grandparents' house until things cool down at home. My dad is with my mom trying to sort her out, and my other grandparents, my mom's parents, are talking with her as my dad told them what happened. I'm not going to be maid of honor nor her bridesmaid since she's a jerk. I'm not sure if I'll even go to her wedding. I'll have to just see what my dad thinks about it. My grandparents, my dad's parents, whom I'm staying with right now, are talking to my dad about considering divorce or taking a break from my mom as she and my sister are creating a toxic environment for him and I to live in, and that after all these years, they see no reason for him to live with such a woman. I don't really know what to think about it, and I feel kind of lost, but I thought I'd update you anyways. Am I the jerk for falling out of love with my wife after she took a 7-week vacation? I, 32 male, have been married to my wife, who's 30, for 4 years, and we've been together for 8 years. She's a stay-at-home mom. We have Irish twins who are 1 and 2, which is incredibly taxing for my wife. She wanted a solo vacation break for a few weeks where she could travel different states, visit her high school and college friends, go to concerts, and do a lot of fun stuff. She asked if I would be fine with it. I asked if she could make it a couple of weeks shorter, maybe 7 weeks, because managing our 2 kids alone sounded really daunting, especially since work was also getting taxing recently. I do work remote, so at least that worked in my favor. My wife and I discussed for a couple of days, and I ultimately agreed with her that she did deserve a break because of what she had been through the past few years. And so she took her vacation. The first week managing our kids alone was extremely difficult, and I did feel like I was losing my mind, but I survived. My sister came over to help me from the second week on. She was honestly a lifesaver, and I will be eternally grateful for her. I never directly asked her to help me, but I guess I indirectly did, because when she video called me the end of the first week, I basically broke down in tears. So from the second week on, my sister stayed over at my house to help me with my kids, and a huge burden has been lifted off my shoulders. I also was really able to focus on work and meet my deadlines. To be brutally honest, I did not miss my wife at all. I was emotionally and mentally relaxed, and also had a lot of fun with my kids and my sister. I felt a sense of betrayal that my wife had actually gone through with a 7-week vacation. I slowly fell out of love with my wife. When my wife came back from her vacation, she was super refreshed and recharged, but to be honest, I was a bit indifferent. My wife tried to hook up with me the first night she came back, which I rejected because I said I wasn't feeling it. The subsequent days, I had the same level of indifference in our day-to-day life, and she probably noticed it but didn't say anything. A week later, she asked me why I was like this, and I told her I don't love her anymore. She apologized for taking the 7-week vacation and asked if there was anything she could do to fix it. I told her no. We pretty much went through the motions next couple of weeks before I finally decided that I wanted a divorce. She seemed devastated when I brought up divorce, which surprised me because I already told her I don't love her anymore. She asked if we could do couples therapy or marriage counseling first before I started looking for a divorce lawyer, and I told her I needed some time to think about that. I spent a few days thinking about it, and I'm still leaning towards a divorce because I basically don't love my wife anymore, and I don't think marriage counseling can fix it. Am I the jerk for falling out of love with my wife because she went on a 7-week vacation? Update. I woke up this morning, spent an hour reading the comments, and decided that I at least owe it to our kids to try couples therapy before considering divorce. I told my wife of my decision, and she was really happy about it. But I also told her I don't expect too much to come out of it because I just didn't love my wife anymore and wasn't sure if couples counseling could fix it. I want to clarify a couple of things. Money was not an issue. I'm lucky to be working in a high-paying, albeit stressful job. It really didn't bother me how much money my wife spent on her trip. The main issue was I was emotionally and mentally overwhelmed managing the 2 kids while I was also working full-time. My wife was also specifically against daycare for personal reasons. By the end of the first week, I had lost my sanity and basically broke down in tears when my sister video called me. My sister had enough time to come over and help me, and she really wanted to because it gave her a purpose in life. She has no plans to be in the workforce, and she's pretty much set in life because of my father's money. I did ask my father to not leave any money behind for me and give everything to my sister because I was already in the workforce and I have a good job. Did you or your kids have any contact with your wife during the 7-week vacation? OP. She called me 2 times during the entirety of her vacation. 7 weeks and only 2 calls? It sounds like she went away and was considering a divorce herself, but changed her mind. Your wife. Being a stay-at-home mom is really draining. It's too much for me. I need a 2-month break. Dumps her 2 kids under the age of 3 on her husband while he's already working full-time. Makes perfect sense. Too hard to just do one of those things, so make your husband do both. Am I the jerk for implying to my mom that I won't help her and my siblings out after I turn 18? My mom is a single mom and we struggle. I'm 17 male and the oldest, and I have 4 younger siblings who are 14, 12, 9, and 8. We have 2 different dads. Me and my 14 and 12-year-old sisters share a dad, and he walked out on us while mom was pregnant with my 12-year-old sister. A year later, she found another guy, and he was bad news, but my mom was so desperate for a guy and overlooked a lot of red flags. She had 2 kids with him, and then he stole from my mom and left without ever looking back and left us in a really tight position. After that, my mom would lean on me a lot, and she asked me to step up and be there for my siblings and help more around the house, and I did it because I wanted to help my mom. I hoped it would mean that she wouldn't rush into another relationship with another dude who was bad news. It was tough though, like having to help with homework and feeding my siblings and being responsible for most of the cleaning was a lot. My mom still did stuff, it was just she had to work and couldn't be there all the time. But after a year or so of that, she started to take her frustrations out on me verbally. She'd complain about calls from my school. I struggled in school, and I still do. Or if I forgot to do something, she'd tell me I couldn't let her down and I needed to act more like an adult and do better. When I was 14, she asked me if I could start making money, and I did. I helped around the neighborhood for some extra money, and I got a part-time job a year later and gave mom the money from that. But it was like she'd take it all out on me even more. If I got home late from work or school, she'd tell me to cut it out and I needed to be more responsible. If a bill wasn't paid on time, she'd tell me to be less useless or be more useful. If I couldn't do something, she'd ask me what good I was doing. She'd tell me I wasn't a kid anymore and I needed to stop expecting the life of one out of nowhere sometimes. Eventually, I got so tired of it and it became so constant that I started saving money so I could move out ASAP. Mom doesn't know about it and I still give her the rest of what I make because it's really the only way to save without her knowing. My mom expects me to stay here and help for the next several years until my siblings are all older. I'll be out of the house as soon as I turn 18, and I won't consider staying for anyone, not even my siblings. Mom has been extra mean to me lately and saying that I should start looking for a full-time job now so that I can become a full second income. I was like, bold of you to assume I'll be getting a full-time job to help out more. And mom was then even more upset and told me that I need to get over myself and accept it. She told me I was such a jerk for implying I could abandon my siblings like that. She was so loud that my siblings heard and they were upset with me too. Not the jerk. Your mother's choices are not your problem. She continued to have kids and shouldn't be expecting you to raise them and support them. They have fathers. That's what child support is for. The men who left her are the ones the anger needs to be projected to, Not you. Gradually hold back more of your money. You're right, by giving some and saving some, she won't necessarily suspect you're making your escape plan. Good luck. I'm sorry you're being put through this. It's not your fault, and you are far from useless. Am I the jerk for ruining my dad's chances of winning my mom back? I'm 25, female, and my parents are getting divorced after 24 years of marriage. My mother was basically cheating on my father for months before he found out. I put cheating in quotation marks because my dad was a horrible husband, so I was actually happy she found someone else. Once my mom said she wanted to separate, my dad completely changed. He said he didn't want her to leave, begged her to stay, saying he will change. He actually got on medication for his depression, started being more affectionate, and asked for couples counseling that he said my mom agreed to do. One day I go to my parents' house and my dad says he wants my help winning my mom back. We're in the backyard and mom is in the house. I told him no, because I want what's best for her and he's not it. He said that he has severe depression and saying that he's bad without acknowledging how depression can affect a person isn't right. He said he was disappointed because if the genders were reversed, I would admonish him for cheating and breaking the vow of marriage. Now this is where I might be the jerk. My dad is doing everything he can to win my mom back, so I said that while I won't help him, I wouldn't interfere in his plans and would stop talking about him with her. Me and my mom talk a lot about how crappy of a husband my dad is. At one point in the conversation, he says, in a calm tone, "I know you're not going to like this, but I'ma say it anyway. When one parent gives you gifts and takes you on trips and buys you things, of course you're going to side with them, even if they're wrong, because you don't want to lose that." This made me so angry. I have a genuine friendship with my mom, whereas even though my dad was a fantastic father, stay-at-home dad, gave us everything we ever wanted or needed, I don't necessarily enjoy being around him. I hang out with him sometimes out of obligation, but it's very forced, and I know he can tell, and he's told me this hurts him in the past. I basically went off saying, "Forget you, and how dare you," and that he had no right to question my character, and the reason I like my mom more is because he's no fun, unmedicated, he's rude and rigid, and it has absolutely nothing to do with money. I'm screaming, but up until this point, our conversation was calm, and we were almost whispering so my mom wouldn't hear. My dad keeps trying to shush me, but I don't let up. I go to my mom and tell her what he just said, and he keeps looking at me saying, "Why are you doing this to me? I can't believe you're doing this to me. We were just having a calm conversation." I say I'm leaving, and my mom gets in the car with me. Later, my dad says that after my blow-up, my mom no longer wants to go to couples therapy. Am I the jerk for blowing up and making it harder for my dad to win my mom back? Edit. I'm editing this to add that the reason I'm so involved is because both my parents talk about the other to me. My dad started first, and my mom only got involved when I asked her if she was mistreating him in any way he was claiming, but they're both wrong for this. Other important info. My dad told me my whole life that he has bipolar disorder, and that's why he was so messed up. I've sent him books and podcasts and articles and lectures for years about this disorder. I made my entire family start therapy 2 years ago, and I said that my only request for my dad is that he get medicated because he knows he has bipolar disorder. He laughed and said, "I was waiting for you to say that. I'm not even bipolar." The therapist then got a little curt with me and said I shouldn't armchair diagnose just because I was a psych major. My dad just nodded along. This is just one of his serious manipulations, but he does it to me often, and that's why our relationship is fractured. Not the jerk. It was wildly inappropriate for your dad to request your help getting back together with your mom. Their marriage is their business, not yours. Not the jerk. Your dad was trying to manipulate you and your mom, and you did the right thing calling him out. You didn't ruin his chances to do anything. He's been doing that for years and just wants a scapegoat to blame his actions on. Not the jerk. Witness tampering comes to mind. You were good. You offered not to work against him. Then he exhibited the same type of horrible behavior as previously. Your being furious at him was a direct result of his actions and verbal attack. You were justified in feeling insulted and reacting to this. When all he had to do was just keep quiet after your offer and accept the win, he simply couldn't resist again showing you who he was. Your father trying to pin your mother's decision to not try therapy on you does seem to be part of his normal behavior pattern. Not the jerk. Your dad sounds like a total jerk. I'm also glad your mother was cheating on him, and I don't blame her one bit. This really reminds me of my own sorry excuse for a father. He also claimed he had mental health issues, and of course wanted to play the victim when my mother left him. Like, dude, you're a 40-something-year-old white dude living in America, and you seriously expect me to feel sorry for you because of your mental health? He thought paying my college loans would magically cause me to want a relationship with him. But once they were paid, I still went no contact, and I suggest you do the same. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.